Welcome back. You are still watching Daybreak here on the Arise News channel. We're coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. It's time to take a look at what's making the front pages this morning. And to begin, we'll start with our sister publication, This Day newspaper. It's a leading headline, also flowing across all other national dailies, is the petrol price hike. PDP, labor unions, Afenifere, CSOs, Fume, Lambast, federal government. Some riders to that story: 1,000 naira per litre, brutal assault on Nigerians, says opposition party. Meanwhile, the NLC and TUC are demanding reversal. They insist it's a breach of agreement with the government. LCCI, NISIMA, and OPS, others expressing concern over the effect on business. The photo just below that, Zenith Bank's International Trade Seminar on non-oil export. Those are the officials of Zenith Bank and some other officials at the 9th annual edition of the bank's International Trade Seminar non-oil exports. Tinubu attack on Yobe, cowardly. This is the president condemning Sunday's attack on Mafa in the Tamua local government area of Yobe State. He says the attack is atrocious and cowardly. At the top there, just following that leading photo, Zenith Bank's trade seminar, stakeholders advocate increased investments in non-oil exports. Meanwhile, Labour Party sacks Julius Abure-led NEC, sets up 29-member caretaker committee. Those are the stories making this day this morning. Indy, do any of the stories pick your take?
I mean, the ongoing, all the papers are carrying it, and it's really what one can describe as a very, very harrowing experience for commuters. I mean, this is going to have. I mean, even initially when on May 29, when the president said subsidy is gone, the ripple effect was felt immediately, and then since then it's been going up. The promise was that this will then stop. It's not just the price, but the fact that people can't even. This morning, as I just branched in from the petrol station across us, they're not even selling,
Yes, so it's not only that there's a price hike, there's also that scarcity that people cannot even find the products to purchase. So even if you say, okay, no problem, I'll buy it at 1,000 naira per litre or above 1,000, you can't even see it to buy. And you also have this angle, the NLC, TUC, they're all up in arms. They are demanding a reversal. They're saying that, look, the federal government
pulled the wool over their eyes.
Exactly, betrayed them, basically, saying that when they were negotiating for the minimum wage, federal government said, look, if you accept 70,000, we will not increase petrol price. However, if you go on to take the 250,000, we will increase it. And now the federal government is saying, look, we did not have any agreement of such. So now, I think we were talking about this yesterday, the weight of what the NLC is even saying. Are people still optimistic about the NLC and what they have to say about this?
Well, NLC said this right from the onset. They didn't just start saying it today. But the presidency from Abdulaziz, they're just making that statement now, even though it's their word against. And I remember correctly, NNPC did make the statement when that negotiation was going on initially. Let's go to some other papers. The same story on Guardian: outrageous high cost of petrol, scarcity push businesses to the brink. But there are other stories there. Obasanjo and Nyoko, others lament impunity, poor leadership. Eddie reviews prisoners feeding allowance by 50%, raises budget to 45 billion naira. And Buhari, northern governors, Saudi Arabia condemn Yobe killings. And then there's a story on Gates warning of rising misery. That is a no-brainer. Says Nigeria spends less per capita on its people. I think one of the papers treated this holy bullshit there. But NEC sets deadline for state police reports, releases 3 billion naira flood relief funds. Some states, Kwara, Adamawa, Sokoto, then FCT, of course, and Kechi. One wonders why, because NEC deliberated on this. Why have they not submitted their own reports, but the argument is that NEC is considering it, they've said to consider it on the basis that this will improve security. Whether that will happen or not, your guess is as good as mine. But then the question is, why haven't this? One wonders why these states and the Federal Capital Territory are lax on it.
I think one would think, given the urgency of the security situation in the country, that all hands would be on deck. State policing is something we've been talking about for years and years to come. And so when it comes time to actually bring a framework for your state, I think all hands should be on deck, and we shouldn't get to a point where NEC has to give an ultimatum to say, look, this is the deadline and you must bring us some sort of template, some sort of framework when it comes to state policing. But we'll see on Monday, I think September 9 is the date for that deadline. And again, you also have to...
NEC is also saying that if they fail, whatever agreements are reached, it will be binding
on them. Exactly. And you don't want that, because it's not a blanket, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Every state is unique in their own way, it's diverse in their own way, has their own different sort of security challenges.
Yes.
Exactly. So you need, the solution has to be peculiar to that state. And you also obviously, there's always bureaucracy, there's always administrative inefficiency that can also cause this sort of hindrance to get this moving. But let's take a look at the New Telegraph this morning and what it has on its front page. We'll take some of the stories this morning. New Telegraph, as well as other papers, talking about the petrol price hike. It says LCCI and Labour, new fuel pump price brings severe hardship on Nigerians, job losses, firms shut down, surge in inflation loom. Federal government to NLC president never negotiated minimum wage with the fuel price. Meanwhile, Tinubu pushing Nigerians to the wall, says the PDP. NLC says denial of president's offer amusing. Imo holds emergency security meeting following attacks and killing of operatives. Petrol landing costs hit 1,100 naira per litre. Nupeng vows to defend and protect refinery from economic saboteurs. Nigerian prison death row population hits 3,590. At the bottom there on state police, NEC gives Monday ultimatum to make submissions. Council seeks collaboration among 3 tiers of government to address flooding. Meanwhile, 31 people have died in Kano State due to flooding. That's according to SEMA. And then you have the ACF says North suffering its worst challenges. Now says the region is ready for constitutional change. And Northerners deserve apology from their leaders. Indeed. What do you
Nigerians really deserve a it's not just
exactly
the entire country. But there's this story on that New Telegraph before we go to Vanguard. No, Bill Gates, Nigeria's economy has stagnated. The presidency has been saying that the economy is growing, but he's saying it has stagnated. Bill Gates Foundation has said that indices in the nation's economy has shown that Nigeria's economy has stagnated. Gates made this declaration yesterday in his remarks at the NEC meeting. And so he's saying that more tax, and then one is wondering, tax on who? Is it on the nouveau rich or the masses who are suffering? But then he makes a very poignant statement here where he says, Gates also advised the government at both federal and state levels to invest more in the people by committing more resources into health and nutrition.
And also another interesting story, I think we were talking about this the other day, on the New Telegraph, the NBA, that's Nigerian Bar Association, is now offering free legal services to those #end bad governors protesters. And we're talking about how the Nigerian Bar Association, they just had their conference, how they were sort of quiet while all this was going on, but they're actually not quiet. They've said they're going to offer free legal services for those protesters that are facing some sort of charges. The NBA Association and the presidents, they've also directed sort of associates or branches to actively monitor the legal proceedings, ensuring that these protesters' rights are protected. And so we'll see how that goes.
Let's look at Vanguard then. This story on China and Nigeria. He says China to help Nigeria. I mean, among other stories we're having, there's the question of petrol price hike. Nasima, LCCI, NECA worry over jobs and the economy. And Shetima inaugurating an upgraded terminal there. And some other stories. But this story says China to help Nigeria fight money laundering, terrorism financing. And then the China government says it will partner with Nigeria in the fight against money laundering and terrorism financing. This is a joint statement issued by both countries saying the agreement aimed at supporting Nigeria's efforts to safeguard the stability of its financial and foreign exchange markets and crack down on financial crimes. It also talked about swap, swap initiatives with the country somewhere down the line. These are results, if you like, of the president's visit to China or interaction with Xi Jinping in China. Both countries agreed to support Nigeria's geographical and development advantage in West Africa to establish Africa's flagship project on cross-national and cross-regional cooperation, the statement reads. One hopes that this eventually pans out very, very good.
We'll follow on the agreements between China and Nigeria. Let's take a look at some regional papers this morning, beginning with The Citizen, South Africa, its front page. Let's take a look at the leading photo there, India. I know you would love this one. It says Bronze Brothers on the front page of The Citizen. Okay. There was double delight for South Africa at the Paralympics in Paris yesterday, as Lucas Sithole and Donald Ramfadi won bronze in men's wheelchair tennis squad doubles, while hand cyclist Peter Duperez finished third. You can see the double delights there, just waving their flag. Yeah. They're calling them the bronze. Exactly, because I think some people think the Olympics are done, but the Paralympics still continue. It's exactly in Paris, and the story is just coming out of there. I think Nigeria won its second.
That's where we usually get most of our medals. Those people are very key,
And so it's just amazing to see these kind of stories making the front page. And just quickly at the top of that photo, taxpayer won't bail out VBS. Now, this story is just about the VBS collapse in 2018. Yep. And now they're saying that the payout will not cost taxpayers a cent, which is very, very important. It says the victims who lost billions in the Vendor Building Society, which is the VBS mutual bank that collapsed, will get their money back, and it will cost South Africans not a cent. That's according to Limpopo and ANC, vowing as it plans a grandiose scheme to revive that defunct bank. It says we will use the interest the curator is getting from all those who took loans. Very important.
That's very interesting. Defending the customers of the bank. These are top executives at VBS Bank misappropriated nearly 2 billion rand. That's about $130 million through intricate schemes involving fake deposits. Can you beat that? And non-repayable loans. At the height of his financial extravagance, Matosi, the chairman of VBS, indulged in luxury cars and properties. And so they're saying, let them not think that taxpayers' money will be involved in bailing out VBS. That's very interesting because the consumers of the banks are being protected there. Then let's look at the other paper from Ghana.
Daily Graphic.
Daily Graphic. It declares national emergency on Galamsey. Galamsey, this is by Prof. Ede to President Akufo-Addo, is just the same kind of thing we're having in Nigeria here with mining. It says former chairman of the National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, Professor Stephen Ede, is urging the President Akufo-Addo to declare a national emergency on illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. That's the name they call it. Such a move, he said, would give the President emergency powers to decisively deal with the menace, which he described as a gargantuan environmental degradation. Galamsey is a major reflection of political, traditional, and security leadership failure in the country, he said. The same thing that Ghana is experiencing we're experiencing here, trying to tackle illegal mining.
Yes.
And it's dangerous to the environment.
Exactly. Quickly, we'll just move on to other international papers. The Guardian UK, its leading headline this morning, Grenfell, a disaster caused by dishonesty and greed. You can see the leading photos there. 72 people died in Grenfell disaster. These are pictures of some of those killed that have never been made public. It says the long-awaited public inquiry report finds all 72 deaths in that tragedy
could have been avoided.
At that tower could have been avoided. Starmer apologizing and police coming under pressure to accelerate criminal investigation. Families of victims say the report proves that many firms were little better than crooks and killers. And the report goes on to even make some sort of recommendations. It's not just pointing fingers, it's offering sort of a blueprint for reform so that things like this do not occur again. Talking about unified regulation, calling for a single regulatory body to oversee when it comes to construction practices and enforcing safety standards. They have also recommended some sort of legislative overhaul, some new laws, some new guidelines aimed at preventing similar tragedies, and also improving fire safety training. Okay, we try to prevent this. In the event that it even happens, there has to be enhanced training for architects and fire service personnel to ensure robust response to potential hazards. Indeed, this report is just so sad. Other papers have it. I think the Times has it as well. It says killed by greed and a culture of dishonesty. This just goes to show you how greed, how mismanagement, how inefficiency, how negligence can just cause unnecessary loss of a lot of lives.
The Sir Martin Moore Blake, who led the inquiry, found that firms which made the combustible materials used on the tower, Aconic, Colotex, and Kingspan, engaged in deliberate. This is deliberate. They knew what they were doing. Deliberate and sustained strategies to mislead the market. He identified incompetence, cavalier attitude, and concealment of wrongdoing.
The culture of cost cutting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the greed. Yeah, I mean, the ball lies on the court of they're asking police, the message to Metropolitan Police and the Crown Prosecution Service, CPSA, it's now on to you to deliver justice. 7 years this has been on. 72 people wasted because of man's inhumanity to man, greed and dishonesty. That's how it's been this morning on the paper review. Thanks for joining us on Daybreak. Next is the morning show. As you know, every day it does matter here on Horizon News. I am Ndi Amugo. Thanking you for watching.
And I'm Nkechi Nana. Good morning.